Even though I was out of town on business for a majority of the week, I was still able to check in on Jake and see how things were going. I mean, he had to pick up some of my slack to cover tight ends and quarterbacks. But after I got done watching all of his start and sit videos, the only thing I could think of was he talked about balls a lot. Going balls deep, throwing balls deep, it just didn't matter. He just kept talking about them. So I said, you know what? If he's going to do that, then I'm going to do an episode with my balls out. It's just far too uncomfortable, though. So if you give me a moment, I'm going to go put my balls away, and then we'll get into everything. What's good, Headliner Nation? Typically, I welcome you back to the Fantasy Headliners, but I think you need to welcome me back after a brief absence this week. I was out in the real world doing adult things, which we all find ourselves doing from time to time, but excited to be back recording some episodes for you. In this one, we're going to be talking about quarterbacks and tight ends for Week 8 of the NFL season. We're going to be jumping into it right away. Jake covered all the start and sit videos for us this week. So for these rankings, I'm going to run through them really quick. If you're looking for in-depth knowledge, head back to those start and sit videos and check through those. These are going to be my rankings. Jake brought up a lot of good points. I'm going to bring up a few others. We got a lot to talk about, so we're going to jump into it. Ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about quarterbacks first. All right, probably the QB1 on everyone's board this week, Russell Wilson at number 1. Atlanta's giving up the most fantasy points per game to opposing quarterbacks. And even though they're going to be probably missing Matt Ryan this week, and maybe it's not nearly as back and forth game as we would originally hoped, Russell Wilson is still going to be the safest bet on the slate this week. Against that defense, they're still going to give up a lot of points to him. Expect him to have a great week. Deshaun Watson coming in number 2, and the only quarterback to average more points per game than Deshaun Watson is Lamar Jackson. Oakland's also giving up the 3rd most fantasy points per game to opposing quarterback. Aaron Rodgers, he's been playing a lot better. Kansas City doesn't have the toughest defense in the world. Typically, if Patrick Mahomes would be out there, we would definitely expect a high-scoring game here. However, the one thing that worries me about Rodgers this week is maybe they focus on the run a little bit more, especially if they can get out in front of KC, and maybe Matt Moore just doesn't do everything that he's supposed to keep the game close. Jared Goff coming in at number 4. He gets Cincinnati, who's giving up the 5th most fantasy points per game to opposing quarterbacks. Both of their cornerbacks will probably be out this week as well. Stafford coming in at number 5. He's the QB7 right now based on points per game. Remember, he's already had his bye, so there might be a few quarterbacks who have more points than him, but on a points per game basis, coming in at number 7. He only has 3 interceptions this year, and he has multiple touchdowns in all but 2 games. He continues to be a really safe option and a good matchup for him this week. Josh Allen at number 6. Philly giving up over 18 fantasy points per game to opposing quarterbacks. Josh Allen still has a nice ceiling because of the potential for some extra yards on the ground, especially a rushing touchdown. Tom Brady at number 7. Yes, Josh Gordon's out. Mohamed Sanu is in. Cleveland's giving up a lot of points to running backs, though. So Tom Brady, even though he's probably going to be a safe start this week, especially considering the fact that Jarvis Landry basically said, we're going to win this game, Tom Brady and company are probably going to want to prove him a little bit wrong. So I still think he has a really safe floor, but a little bit maybe lower of a ceiling because Cleveland's giving up a lot of points to running backs right now. So there's definitely an opportunity to focus more on Sony Michel and James White. Kyler Murray coming in next. New Orleans is giving up over 20 points per game right now. Murray might have a little bit higher of a ceiling than what Brady does, but I do have Brady just a smidge in front of him because he is safer. Number 9, Mason Rudolph. He's got a lot of upside on his way back into the lineup this week. Monday Night Football gives him an extra day to rest. And of course, as always, it's Miami. Really like his ceiling this week. This might be this ranking for him here might be a little aggressive, but I really like Mason Rudolph. I've liked him since the draft, so I am rooting for him. I really like him this week. Jacoby Brissett, he continues to be fantastic. I tweeted something about the other day how he's just not getting enough love, especially for stepping in for Andrew Luck and playing the way that he has. This is a tough matchup, though. Don't love him facing the Broncos this week. That's why I got him a little bit lower. But moving forward, he could potentially start to move his way into the top 10 on a weekly basis. Ryan Tannehill coming in at number 11. He has a very wide range for me this week. His ceiling is really, really high against this Tampa Bay defense. However, his floor could also be basically in the basement. So I like Ryan Tannehill as a risky, high upside play for teams this week, especially if you're missing a quarterback. Injury, bye, doesn't matter, ineffectiveness, whatever it may be. I like him. Just be prepared for a potential disappointing outing as well. So I still like him, though. I'm still going to put him up here this high as a quarterback one this week. Teddy Bridgewater coming in at number 12. Arizona's giving up the fourth most fantasy points per game. Yes, there was talk or fourth most fantasy points per game to opposing quarterbacks. There was talk about Drew Brees. Teddy Bridgewater is going to get another start this week. Gardner Minshew at 13. He's been good, but I don't think he has nearly enough ceiling this week. Jameis Winston next, and Jameis Winston is like a fantasy football box of chocolates. You just never know what you're going to get with him. He could have a really, really good matchup with a high ceiling, and he throws 3 picks, and he just doesn't do what he's supposed to. He could have a game like against the Los Angeles Rams, where we're like, no, there's no way Winston does anything this week, and he absolutely goes off. That's basically what he is. You don't know what you're going to get from him on a week-to-week basis. More than likely, unless the matchup is really, really good, I'm not going to have him as a QB1 the rest of the season. However, I'm not giving up as of yet because he has excellent weapons around him. You just got to be ready to deal with that floor that could come crashing down into the ground at any point in time. Carson Wentz at number 15. Yeah, he's still the quarterback 10, but it's been some really up and down performances this year. This week, I think it's going to be another tough matchup for him. Don't love it. I know a lot of you, a lot of Eagles fans have gotten on me this year for some Carson Wentz hate, even though I haven't been hating on him. But this week, I just definitely do not like him in this matchup. Daniel Jones at 16. Detroit hasn't really been able to stop quarterbacks the last 2 weeks. So this is one that I really debated moving up a little bit more. But I was like, I'm just going to go with the safety of Wentz just a little bit here. Derek Carr at number 17. A good matchup. And there's going to be no Josh Jacobs to keep it balanced this week. So is that good or bad for him? He has some nice performances this year, but more than likely he's still going to be down here as a low QB2. Jimmy Garoppolo coming in at number 18. Heck, Jimmy Garoppolo has been doing a fantastic job this season. The only problem is that Jimmy Garoppolo has been a good quarterback, but not a good fantasy quarterback. They run the ball far too much. Yes, they have a new weapon now. Will he use them? Is he going to get acclimated to the system? I don't know. A lot of different things going on with that. Jimmy Garoppolo going to be safe with it. Phillip Rivers, this is a really tough Bears matchup here. I'm going to go ahead and put him down at 19. Just don't see enough upside. And Sam Darnold, don't see the upside with him this week. I definitely don't think he's going to be seeing ghosts like last week. However, with that being said, I think the best is yet to come for Sam Darnold, excuse me. So, yeah, I think there's a lot better opportunities for him going forward. So don't stress it. If you're somebody that's picked up Darnold hoping for a nice stretch run, it's still coming. Don't give up on him yet. All right, let's go ahead and move on to the tight ends, my top 20 tight ends for this week. And number 1 is going to be Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce and Austin Hooper, these two I went back and forth on a little bit as my tight end one this week. I like the matchups. They both have backup quarterbacks playing, which for tight ends, I don't typically downgrade tight ends as much as I might do a wide receiver if a backup quarterback is playing. So I think these both could be excellent weapons for the quarterbacks this week. And they both continue to have elite level production most weeks this season. So I'm going to put them both here at 1 and 2, like them both. Hunter Henry at number 3, no Keenan Allen, potentially. Yes, the Bears are giving up over 13 fantasy points per game to opposing tight ends. So even though they do really good against wide receivers, Hunter Henry has a chance to really shine this week. George Kittle at number 4. It's a tough upside. I do think his upside, or it's a tough matchup, and I do think his upside is going to be limited. So just keep that in mind. I almost bumped him down a couple of more spots this week just because I didn't love the matchup, but I'm going to keep him right here just because with as bad as the position has been at times this year with quarterback, George Kittle has still been one guy that you have to keep in on a regular basis. Evan Ingram at number 5, yes, didn't give you what you were looking for last week. Completely understand it. However, we're not giving up on Evan Ingram. He's going to be at number 5 for me this week. Detroit has been pretty tough against opposing tight ends. We'll see if Evan Ingram can break through. Darren Waller has been an absolute volume monster this year. He's not going anywhere. You continue to play him. I almost put him over Kittle and Ingram this week. So just keep an eye on that. Keep an eye on that matchup. Tune into the live show on Saturday night. I might end up moving a couple of things around. I'm still debating a couple of things, but as of right now, this is what I'm going with. Jonnu Smith at number 7. Now, this is probably a ranking that you're looking at and saying, Kyle, what in the world are you doing? However, hear me out on Smith. There's no Walker this week. And Tampa Bay is giving up the second most fantasy points to opposing tight ends. Smith is a monster. We just don't see him because of Delaney Walker. When he gets a chance, though, he absolutely has the possibility to be a tight end one. I really like this matchup. I like him and Ryan Tannehill together. I already talked about Ryan Tannehill. Again, I was being pretty aggressive with his ranking. I'm being pretty aggressive with the Smith ranking as well. But this is definitely an excellent streaming option for you this week. Number 8, Jimmy Graham. We're going to put him here. Really like this matchup this week. Again, no Devontae Adams either. I almost said Demaryius Thomas. Nope. No Devontae Adams this week either, which bodes well for him. Vance McDonald at number 9. Really like this matchup for him to bounce back. I know we've been disappointed with him so far this year, but he's had an injury. He's lost his starting quarterback. He then lost his second-string quarterback. Then now he's back to a second-string quarterback. So I think that he can definitely get the job done. I'm not giving up on him just yet. Josh Hill at number 10. This is an excellent matchup for Josh Hill this week. A lot of upside for him. And over the past couple of weeks, Jared Cook started to come alive. 2 touchdowns over the last 2 weeks. With his targets, he's had at least 3 games this year with 6 targets. A lot of yards for him basically so far this season. But Cook did much better with receiving yards over the last couple of weeks. He is out this week. Josh Hill could definitely step in and be a nice target for Teddy Bridgewater and a good matchup. Zach Ertz all the way down at number 11. He's been all right this year. He's not been what a lot of people hoped he would be. I was definitely one that was being cautious with him heading into the season. But he's averaging under 10 points per game right now. Now, there's only like 7 tight ends that are averaging double-digit points per game. But Zach Ertz, it's a tough matchup. I don't love the matchup for him. I could absolutely see Zach Ertz being even lower than this. But because of who he is, because of the offense he plays for, I'm still going to leave him right here around that tight end 1 spot. Because if he finds the end zone once, more than likely he's going to be a tight end 1. And that's why I've got Cameron Brate at number 12. Great segue there. Cameron Brate, there's one thing, life, death, taxes, and Cameron Brate getting red zone targets when Jameis Winston is his quarterback. So Cameron Brate absolutely has a ton of touchdown upside this week. That's why I got him at number 12. He's just got to score 1. If he scores 1 touchdown, definitely looking at a double-digit point week from him. Gerald Everett at number 13, a guy that I want to continue to root for, but he's been up and down. Absolutely could have a great week. Sometimes, not so much. Dawson Knox at number 14. I like Dawson Knox. I think he could have a really good week this week. Last week I got a lot of questions about Tyler Kroft coming back, and I said not to worry about it. I think Knox is still the guy. I think what we saw last week is Knox will continue to be that receiving threat, but they've also talked about using a lot of 2 tight end sets as well, so keeping him on the field. Darren Fells at number 15. I got Fells at 15, and I do have Akins down at 19. I had Akins a little bit higher. I had Fells a little bit lower. I separated them a little bit this week because they have a really good matchup, and Fells seems to be the red zone target of the 2. So I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt, bump him a little bit higher this week. And then Eric Ebron, TJ Hawkinson, these guys are really this week just red zone threat. So really for them to get any kind of value this week, they're going to have to find the end zone. I don't necessarily see enough volume coming for either of them, so they definitely are going to have to get themselves into the end zone to really give you any kind of a fantasy production this week. Greg Olsen has a really tough matchup. Talked about Akins already. And then Chris Herndon, I know a lot of people have been excited for him. We just haven't had a chance to see it yet. So if he gets out there on the field this week and he's healthy and he's feeling good, maybe, but again, not loving his matchup either this week. For the tight ends, there seems to be a lot of matchups I like. There seems to be a lot of matchups I hate. There isn't really anybody I look at this week and I go, okay, could have a good matchup. It's either I really don't like this, I don't love it, or it's I really like this matchup. Definitely a high ceiling for him this week. So a lot of variety this week. I mean, we can have some really low floors and some really high ceilings. Whatever it is, I hope it's a lot better than last week, because last week for the top 12 tight ends in terms of fantasy points, only 5 of them were in the top 12 for expert consensus ranking heading into the week. So that was a little bit tough to watch last week, but we're going to come back strong this week. We're going to put together a much better week. We're going to get some more fantasy football wins. Ladies and gentlemen of Headliner Nation, thanks so much for tuning into this episode. Always remember, though, hit that like button for us if you appreciate the content. hit that subscribe button if you've never been here before, or if you've been tuning in and haven't subscribed yet, please do that now. Also, turn on that bell notification so anytime we go live, Saturday nights at 9 Eastern, don't forget, set your alarm clock. Or anytime we drop new content, which is every day of the week, you're going to get notified right away. And always leave a comment below. We answer as many as we possibly can. There's just been so many comments this year. It's been hard to keep up with. But trust me, we are out there, we are reading, and we are trying to respond as much as possible. Headliner Nation, thanks so much for tuning into this episode, and I'll catch you on the live show for Week 8. Thanks so much. Have a good one. We'll see you later.